I've been thinking about how drama or trash talking or talking about people behind their backs is generally known to be an inherently bad thing, and people get labeled as like bad if they are the type of person to talk about things that upset them, and how this in itself is actually not inherently bad. It's not bad to have feelings, to have things that upset you, and to express that. The only reason it's bad is because it runs through the filter of our culture's fetish for labeling people as their moods or labeling people as their current struggles. This is more on the effects of a punishment focused society that views people as inherently bad, needing to be corrected, versus a rehab focused society, which views people as acting out when they are struggling and needing some sort of extra help and care. So I think most of us have heard or experienced the idea that people who gossip or talk about others are bad because that is like unsavory behavior. And I want to challenge that because I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with having feelings or expressing feelings because we're all having feelings. We're all going through something. But I do think that when it runs through the filter of, we must put people into categories of good or bad so that we can be wary of them, that's when it becomes destructive, right? So when we're saying, like, you know, so and so was mean to me today because they're an angry person, because they're a mean person, which I'm certainly guilty of this at times, versus, wow, so and so is in a bad mood today. I wonder what's going on in their life. And like, obviously, people are going through things at the same time, and that's when that becomes tricky is a lot of us are going through things and everybody can't respond perfectly all the time, and that deeply goes into this. There's like this mirroring thing where it's like having no grace for other people's mistakes and other people's bad days and other people's burnout and other people's struggles means you also have no grace for your own, or other people should not have grace for your own. And it's like one of those things where those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, like none of us are perfect. So when we create this reality where anytime somebody isn't meeting us with their full energy and their full best self, because they're going through something or because they're having a bad day or simply because they're not perfect, they become the bad guy, then that sets the precedent that if we are in that same position where we're not completely meeting somebody with our best selves all the time, if we're not on 24/7, if we're struggling, if we're going through something, then we become the villain, the bad guy, the mean one, the lazy one, the crazy one. And specifically, yesterday while I was at work, I work in a very stressful, fast paced environment. And there is a lot of gossiping. I think of it as venting, but I think because it filters through the societal conditioning that people are easily labeled as lazy, crazy, stupid, mean, you know, because it runs through the filter of people are easily labeled as their mood or their current struggle, it comes off as bad, harmful, and destructive. And I was thinking about like all the gossiping that goes on. And I was empathizing with a couple people, but I was mainly empathizing with somebody who has similar struggles to me, with ADHD and being kind of a space case, oftentimes viewed as being lazy. And I was thinking about how I know what would help this person because I have been through the same struggles. And I was thinking about how, like, all these people are coming to me and saying, "Oh, can you believe so and so didn't get this done? They're lazy. You can never find them." Da 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 da. But how I know that that person is actually just struggling because I've been through those struggles. I've been that person. And something hit me, something clicked where I was like, oh, yeah, if we lived in a world where instead of going after people and labeling them as this or that, we literally, like, if somebody had taken that person, or if a couple people had taken that person and been like, hey, let's have a conversation. What's going on with you? How can we help? Things of this nature. We would live in a vastly different society. And it does become tricky because, again, it would take somebody who has the space and has the energy and isn't going through something themselves to be able to execute that. And a lot of us are going through a lot. A lot of this not having enough space really just goes back to the fact that we are conditioned to believe that people are easily labeled and easily placed into boxes. And it makes me wonder how things would be, how communities would be, how, people would be function at work, how people would function within their own communities, within their friend groups, within their families, if we were coming at it from a different angle of, oh, so and so is exhausted, so and so is burnt out, so and so is struggling. Like me and my best friend, we used to fight a lot really bad when we were younger, like teenagers to early 20s. And we would always jump to what did the other person do wrong? And we wouldn't just jump to what did the other person do wrong. We would literally jump to labeling each other like, you are this way, you are that way. And I noticed as I've gotten older that this is a very common approach in a lot of relationships and in a lot of conflict is this like jumping to, well, you are this way, you are this way. And for me and my best friend, since we've gotten older, we have developed this approach where we've had a lot of like talks about conflict and things of this nature, where we are now just understanding that people have times where they struggle. People have moods, people have days. And because we now give each other space, we have more of this approach now where, like, say we're on the phone and I cop an attitude, she is not going to say anything in the moment, probably, unless she has to like set a boundary, unless it's like real bad, but which it doesn't really get that way anymore. But she's not gonna like say anything in the moment. She'll just like acknowledge it and then later be like, oh, seems like you were in a bad mood that day. And the same goes vice versa. If something happens where I catch her in a bad way, I'm usually not going to say something in the moment, but later I might go back and be like, hey, what was going on? This kind of hurt my feelings, X, Y, and Z. And more than anything, that's just about recognizing that when somebody is struggling and they're currently in a space where they don't have space and they're expressing their emotions, or two people, that's another thing, where both people are expressing that they are not having a lot of space and they're in a bad time for some reason, like something is bothering them, then nothing will really get resolved in the moment by pointing it out and by, pointing fingers. Like that's just something that I've learned over the years, especially through friendships and close relationships, that in the heat of the moment, usually if two people are struggling, nothing's going to get resolved. It's just going to end up being, you're bad for making me feel bad. No, you're bad for making me feel bad. And this is easy to do with friends and family, but it's definitely much harder to do with strangers. And I am no stranger to having reactions because I'm feeling attacked in some way or I'm feeling defensive in some way or labeling somebody because it's just easier to do. But it is something that I'm really consciously trying to work on because I know and have noticed that that is an extension of how I hold myself accountable. So when I'm labeling others, it's because, and when I'm like placing character flaws and character judgments on others, it's because I feel that way about myself. I'm holding myself to those same standards. I won't allow myself to have bad times, to have bad days, to have periods in time where I'm struggling and I'm acting out of alignment. And because I won't allow myself to have those times because I'm judging myself and I'm labeling myself, I then am doing the same thing to others. So I've been trying to consciously work on this and like challenge myself in moments where I'm like, oh, they're a bad person. And I find that 9 times out of 10, I can start to understand what might make somebody act the way they're acting and trust this is the goal and it is better in the long run, no matter how hard it is. Because if you think that somebody else isn't acting right and you want to label them, think hard enough and you'll find times when you were the exact same way, when you exhibited the exact same behavior and you needed space and you needed healing and you needed support or simply just somebody to not treat you like you're bad for it.